Welcome back to First Things First. We're now joined by Eric Mangini. Hey, Coach. How's it going?
Morning.
Good.
What's up, Coach?
Good.
Good to see you.
We doing our hair?
Yeah.
Sure.
No problem. I was waiting for you to ask.
See what happens?
Everyone says you don't like him. I hold back for 1 second, and he asks. Did you ask? Yeah, it was a test.
We've established a routine here.
Exactly right. Y'all talking about hand sanitizer and stuff. You see, my man likes it. Thank you.
No. Found their kid.
Good to see you.
Hey, my favorite Twitter joke yesterday with regards to what the Patriots have done in free agency thus far went like this. Quarterback Tom Brady? Check. Okay, we're good. On a free agent day where most of the NFL's elite teams added pieces, the Patriots added no pieces. And if we're keeping score, they did lose some pieces. Left tackle Nate Solder, one-time starting corner Malcolm Butler, Danny Amendola, Deion Lewis, an intern in the communications department, but that's neither here nor there. Coach, which of the Patriots' losses do you think is most significant, and what does this mean for the Patriots, if anything?
Well, what I've always thought Bill did a great job of was free agency. And you know, the draft record is what it is, but what he's done in free agency has always been, to me, exceptional, and what distinguishes him from a lot of other personnel evaluators. So I'm not really that concerned about any of these losses. I'd say Nate Solder would be the most difficult to replace because it's always hard to replace a left tackle, but they have Dante Scarnecchia there, the offensive line coach, who stayed on, who's consistently developed talent. And over the course of time, you've seen the Patriots move on from big-name guys. They got Nate Solder from a draft pick that they gained from trading Richard Seymour. They moved on from Logan Mankins. They traded him to Tampa Bay. So there's been a history of them doing that. And this first week of free agency, everybody overpays for guys, and there's a frenzy. And then the next week, things calm down, and you get guys at real value, and that tends to be where New England operates.
When Coach says where Belichick's been great is free agency, people should understand that is not always who you sign. That is very often who you don't sign, who you don't match the offer to. And that's a huge part of what you're talking about here. It's not just bringing in a high-priced free agent. It is sometimes looking at Nate Solder, recognizing he's a good player. He helps us win, but he cannot account for 8% of our salary cap moving forward. You know, he's not good enough.
They can't pay him more than Tom Brady.
Okay, well, that's another great way to put it, right? Like, because 4 years, $62 million, you're talking nearly $16 million a year, $35 million guaranteed. And so that is one thing that the bad teams are terrible at evaluating. And I look at year in, year out, even with different management, what Miami does. It's like, hey, the previous management, giving Ndamukong Suh $115 million. You finally get off that contract. What do you do immediately once you get off that contract? Albert Wilson, here's $24 million. Danny Amendola, here's $12 million. Like, the teams that can't help themselves but to overpay for other teams' players, and even the good teams have a hard time not overpaying for their own players, right? Not just to keep them in-house. That is one thing the Pats have been great at. With that said, like, Nate Solder is one of 2 starting left tackles Brady's ever had. It's Matt Light to Nate Solder, aside from games lost to injury. Like, that is not a position they've had a lot of turnover at. They've had a ton of turnover at running back, wide receiver, corner. We know those things. But left tackle has been 2 guys for the last 17 years.
Yeah, there is that concern. He's also had one really good offensive line coach for every year except I think it was a year or 2 that Dante was retired. But he's there, and there's real value in that, because it's not just about how the left tackle plays, it's how the left tackle plays in conjunction with everybody else. And Dante does an excellent job getting that unit to be as cohesive as possible. But with some of the other free agents that left, where did they get those guys? They picked up Amendola from the Rams, and he had kind of kicked around a little bit. Deion Lewis, they got him from Philly. They're going to find those other pieces to replace the pieces that have left.
Yeah, those pieces right there can be replaced. But a lot of respect to the coach, Scarnecchia. Yeah, he is great. But, man, this is a talent-based business. This is what I'm going to tell you. When they start the season, their left tackle will not be as good as the left tackle that they've had in Nate Solder, long as he's been there. Their left tackle will not be as good as the tackle they had before that in Light. They got that position right. The reason why I believe this hurts them more is because this is the only player that they drafted. Now, yes, I can understand the value. At some point, you got to get out. There is a get-out number. They couldn't sign him based on the way they do their salary cap, the way they rate their players, and you cannot pay someone more than Tom Brady. That's not going to fly. What Bill Belichick, he's gotten a lot of criticism for the draft. He doesn't got the draft figured out. But what he's got figured out is when you decide you're getting ready to throw away something, you got a suit you can't wear, you got a dress, you got a pair of shoes, you put it out on the curb, Bill Belichick will find that, and he will find a fit for that better than anyone in NFL history. That is what he has mastered. Besides his ability to understand the offensive game and how important it is to throw the ball and throw the ball quick, his ability to take what you cannot use and utilize it inside of the Patriot way, to me, that is the secret sauce that make the Patriots who they are. The Dion Lewises, the other players, Amendola, all these type of players that they create a role for them, that they play the best football that they've played in their career. That part right there, I believe Belichick, he can replace those other people. But you cannot get a left tackle from a scrap heap. Like, you're going to get a left tackle, but he won't be as talented. So now from a game plan standpoint, Tom Brady, I don't believe, will have the freedom to do the type of things. Because he's going to have to protect the left tackle a little more than that freedom that they had in the past, where Solder could handle any of the top rushers that we've seen in the business without a double team. I believe that affects their overall ability to play offensive football.
Yeah, so Bill was an economics major at Wesleyan, and there's a economic almost ruthlessness with the way that he approaches free agency, and you've seen it over and over again. He establishes a walkaway number, and he walks away, where a lot of teams, and I've been in these rooms, hey, this is our walkaway number. Oh, we can go another $1 million over. Oh, well, you don't have a walkaway number, but he's got that efficiency there where he's willing to move on and serve them well, that discipline, allowing them to improve the rest of the team.
Coach, for the Patriot fan, and there were a number of them yesterday on social media who were just concerned that the free agent pool is dwindling and the Patriots haven't made a ton of moves. I mean, is there any concern for this team?
How long have they been fans for? Like 6 months?
5 months and 18 days, Coach.
Well, I'm just
what do you want me to tell you?
They
Right.
need to,
If they're fans of the Patriots, they should know that the Patriots are not going to participate in the beginning part of free agency. Now, last year, they did things a little bit different.
Yes, they
Yeah,
did.
they went out and got Stephon Gilmore, but they need the talent. They still need talent, but they're not going to do it absent of the structure that they have, which leads them to winning.
Yeah, and each year it'll be different. And sometimes it's going to be trades. Sometimes it's going to be, they've spent big on free agents here and there. Typically, it's filled with mid-round type free agents that have roles, and they do a great job of, like you said, Chris, identifying how that player fits for them. And then once they do that, usually that player excels to the point where they go and get paid somewhere else.
I want to get your thoughts on the one guy we haven't talked much about, in Malcolm Butler. I think everyone expected him to be gone after what happened in the Super Bowl, but that doesn't mean he's not a good player. He played more snaps for them on defense than any player on their team. Despite that, they weren't a great secondary. Now, maybe some people would say because of that, like if you don't think Malcolm Butler's a good player, but I don't think Jonathan Batamosi is better than him. I don't think Eric Rowe's better than him. I think it's very difficult to expect a rookie you draft either at the end of the first round or sometime in the second round to be better than him next year. And the Pats don't have a great history of success drafting that specific position. What is the loss of Malcolm?
It just depends on who was there drafting him.
Okay, well, was that ever?
Well, I think Asante Samuel was pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. I should say a recent history. No, correct. Fair point. In the last 7 years, they haven't had a great history of drafting that position.
Sense,
okay,
yeah.
there you go. I got you.
So
What do you think for the loss of Malcolm Butler means for them?
I think that the second he didn't play in the Super Bowl, that was a done deal. Okay, so there's no going back. And they were looking to trade him in the preseason, so obviously they weren't happy with him at that point. And
they knew they couldn't re-sign him. They knew that he wasn't going to be part of their future.
And a lot of times you get corners during this time period. All these players that are signed this first week, you're paying them so much more than really what their value is.
Yes.
But it's what the market dictates.
Yep.
And next year or even early in the season when the euphoria wears off, you're like, whoa, we paid him how much? And now you get in a situation like we see where guys are getting moved on from, like in Ndamukong Suh in Miami, because it just doesn't make sense. These numbers don't make sense.
Coach, we got to take a break, but stay here. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the Honey Badger on the other side. Can he take a contender over the top? Next on First Things First.
Sante Samuel was very good. You are correct.